Hey everyone, it's Kellen Brower from Racetrack back again with another race examination video where we're going to rehash a couple things from High Point, rev you guys up for Redbud this weekend. Starting off with the first 450 moto start, and wanted to highlight, two things. In each start, there's basically two parts, right? There's obviously getting off the gate first and then trying to control it into the first corner. Well, Jason Anderson got a terrific jump in the first 450 moto, and I mean, the green fender pokes out right away. He's already got a little bit of a gap. Joey Savacci is kind of matching him to the outside, but if Anderson just goes a little bit deeper onto the brakes, he could still control this from the inside, but he's actually one of the first people on the inside to brake, and you can see like even Cairoli up the inside pushes into him a little bit, and Savacci and Sexton just swoop in from the outside. I just thought it was interesting to kind of highlight, more or less how it shows really right there. It emphasizes the two parts of every start. But moving on a little bit later on in that first 450 moto, Antonio Cairoli is going to get into the side of Christian Craig, and this actually hurt Cairoli's knee. He said it actually kind of inflamed an old knee injury a little bit, and more or less kept him out for the rest of the day. But this is, he was just late on the brakes. Craig kind of didn't know he was there, so turned down his normal line, and more or less a racing incident. But the cool thing about this is, so Cairoli DNF'd the first moto. He had a terrible gate pick on the outside, and he darn near could have grabbed the whole shot if he was able to swoop in a little bit better from the outside. Ends up getting pushed out by one of the Hep Suzuki riders, and then is actually going to end up off the track on the inside right here. Probably realized the knee was a little bit more damaged than he thought. But really, I mean, look at the pull that he's going to get from the outside right here. Again, just like Anderson in the first moto, he's one of, if not the first guy to poke his front fender out of the group. And I think he kind of was expecting maybe a little bit more people to come from the inside, so he doesn't swoop the corner as well, just goes right to the outside of the first turn, and still almost pulled out a really good start from a terrible gate pick, but then gets shoved off the track right there. Either way, Cairoli was kind of expected to have this be his last race, at least for a little while anyway, so we're not going to see him at Redbud this weekend, but there he is on the inside of the track, just wondering, well, could have pulled that off, but didn't end up happening. So the last thing I want to talk about from the 450 class at High Point is really just kind of watching the two different styles, more or less, when they're on, out of Chase Sexton and Eli Tomac. And the reason I wanted to highlight this is because both of them, at separate points of the day, I felt like really found their groove. Sexton in the first moto found it pretty much by, getting the whole shot and taking off. But what's curious to me about Sexton versus Tomac is that Sexton has a very kind of like finesse riding style, and you can see it in the way that he'll like kind of hop through braking bumps and like kind of select lines a certain way. Always really up on the pegs and more or less kind of standing into corners. But if you switch over to Eli Tomac, to me when he rides, it looks like he's basically just pushing braking bumps out of the way. And I know he's got a terrific style as well with trying to finesse ruts and stuff like that as well. But again, like I just feel like he'll attack corners a little bit different. Seems to be kind of more over the front of the bike, I would say, when he's really on. But both of them are just so fun to watch when they're in that kind of attack mode, more or less. Like, look at, he just kind of launches to that inside rut, and then coming down this hill. It's not that bumpy right here, but you can see just he's not really like trying to pick out a line. He's just going down the hill straight to a point and then going to the next line and going to the next line. It reminds me a little bit of kind of watching Carmichael ride a little bit, because Carmichael would just, he kind of didn't have like choices with lines, I guess, if that makes sense. He would just go to each point as fast as he could possibly go. But for Tomac, it ended up in the overall win on the day, his first overall win of the season, but crucially, his third moto victory of the season, and starting to find a little bit of a groove here.
I want to remind everybody that this video is presented by onX Off-Road. Know where to go with the #1 off-road GPS app, access 500,000 plus miles of trails and roads, open dates, and public lands. Download the onX Off-Road app today.
Moving on to the 250 class, and I want to start off by talking about how kind of unique of a track High Point is to me, especially when it comes to setting up a pass. And I feel like passes here take like longer than usual. At different tracks, you see someone just out drag someone to the next corner, make a pass, and move on. But you see for Mosiman here, it took like 3 corners basically to go through, the inside to the outside, then back to the outside to make the pass. For Hunter Lawrence here, passing Seth Hammaker in the first moto, again, like inside to outside to cut back inside to make the pass. Like, it just feels like these passes go on for a long time, and I thought that was kind of unique and something that I felt like needed a little bit of more of a talking point. But later on in this first 250 moto, after Michael Mosiman had gone down, Joe Shimoda was catching him. And this was a pretty close call. If you actually slow it down and replay it, I mean, there's a point in time where I think Joe Shimoda is maybe right over top of Michael Mosiman trying to triple to this inside line. I feel like this is a lot closer than you really think it was when you look back on it. And then crazy that Shimoda just basically lands, goes to the outside, and gets right back on the gas, because my heart would have been in my mouth for that situation. But Mosiman probably had no idea what was going on. Just an interesting situation there. In the second moto, Seth Hammaker gets out front again, but he's going to quickly toss the lead away. And this is actually kind of an interesting, display of how the shadows in the trees back here, and probably combined with a little bit of like some water put down and other things like that, maybe just caught him off guard a little bit, because this is a pretty simple mistake, just a small tip over right there. But it actually set up a really interesting second 250 moto, and it kind of started off with some back and forth out of Jet Lawrence and Justin Cooper, which was the title fight in 2021. First time we're really getting to see them fully battled out here in 2022. But you can see Cooper actually take a quick peek right here and then give it a little bit extra of a nudge to Lawrence to the outside. Nothing too crazy, but definitely a little bit more of a nudge than probably needed to be done. So Lawrence kind of repays the favor here at the bottom of the hill by pushing him out a little bit farther. Just overall good, clean racing in the end. And it kind of set up this fantastic Lawrence brother duel as Jet eventually catches Hunter for the race lead. He's going to pass him coming down this downhill, and this turning downhill with the rollers was more or less the trouble spot for Hunter Lawrence in this second moto, because he had a lot of speed in pretty much every other section of the track, including this downhill, which he found a great line about halfway through the moto to come down the inside, just go a little bit longer, a little bit less hard on the brakes into this inside line, still hit the inside no problem, and pass his brother back. So they were going back and forth. It was a great fight. But again, Hunter's going to make a mistake here at the top of the hill, and Lawrence is going to try to, or Jet Lawrence, I should say, is going to try to close back up on him. And Hunter got the line pretty well, but Jet just seemingly got it a little bit better that entire second moto. And this is the catalyst right here. Hunter's going to go outside a little bit and not able to get the Carmichael double off the top of the hill. So Jet does it, gets the doubles down the inside pretty cleanly. It's going to push him to the outside at the bottom because Hunter controls the inside line right here, but Jet is just going to have too much power around this outside, get back to the inside and make the pass. And it seems like at that point, maybe Hunter was a little bit kind of like broken, and Jet was able to pull away because he opened up a couple second lead. But on the last lap, Hunter absolutely ripped up to his back tire, put the pressure on, almost got his brother back for the win. And you could tell that I think this one irked Hunter Lawrence, because I think he felt that he had this 1-1 on the day to his taking. And as soon as the race stops here, he's going to rip a tear off, kind of throw it off. And I mean, look, he did a 204 on the last lap when everything else was a 205.6 and above. Clearly was not frustrated. But I like this because these are the two guys basically at the top of the championship standings and top of the 250 class right now. And I want to see this fight out of Hunter Lawrence. Hopefully we get more of this coming into Redbud this weekend.